So in fact, I had prepared this presentation on green tourism district. At the beginning, I was more thinking about something about the certification, what is exactly a green hotel, the TripAdvisor label that has been created for green hotel, how the people react with that. And I was saying also, and I had a look also to the presentation that were going to be before me. And I was thinking to change a little bit. So it's quite a new presentation. So that's why sometimes I will read a little bit, because the concept of green tourism district is not clear at all. It doesn't exist really, because we have the green tourism resorts. We have some green tourism places like small guest house, small pensions. But what is exactly a green tourism district? Or what should it be? So we had a very nice slide before about the future. Mine is less good than the previous one about what is the predictability, what is the future. But the thing was that we want to try to analyze the current trends and presenting the blooming initiatives that may become a pattern in the tourism market. Because trying to foreshowing the long-term scenario is always an easy game for a consultant, because we speak about in 10 years, and in 10 years, you know, it's like Kazakhstan strategy for 2030. You can say whatever you want. Nobody will judge that in 2030. So let's try to come on short term and to have some short term, how can I say it, prevision. So I'm going to speak more about the consumer behavior. And I will try with this kind of picture. You have this resort in the middle of a desert, in the middle of nothing, but it can be a green resort. So anyway, like an image. So what is exactly, how can we make the difference between a green tourism resort and a green tourism district? In fact, what is a resort? The resort is coming from the French word, from the French verb ressortir, to go out again. So ressort is coming from this French verb, from the old verb phrase. The district is more a specific area, administrative unit in a city, in a county. And so we are in a kind of two different words. But these definitions are important because from, sorry, do you hear me? Because I try to speak louder and to have, it's okay?
I have to hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I forget you. But can I have a mic? It's more easy. Because I have to have a look for the presentation also.
Switch off the other one.
Yeah.
Or to bring interpreters here.
Yes, other solution. So the green district asks necessarily the question of the outskirts of the resort and of its integration into a holistic, sustainable approach of the region and of the area. The question of the green resort, and you will see that very clearly in the next slide, is a kind of empire in an empire. In fact, you create a place in a place, and this place is different. It has different rules. It will be the green tourism resort in the middle of the desert. So you create a different place how can I say it, in a favorable or unfavorable environment. And that is the question that I will develop. Do we need a favorable environment near the district, near the green resort, or can we make a green resort in the middle of an unfavorable environment? And why will you have to go all the time in another place to have a different experience? Do we need all the time to go to a resort? Or the future is just to stay in the place that have no borders, and that will be the sustainable place. Okay, it's a little bit a joke. It's a little bit, not a joke, a marketing game. But let's see a little bit how we can illustrate that. Okay, so these are some key figures about ecotourism, about green tourism. It's always very hard to give numbers about ecotourism, green tourism, because it doesn't have a clear definition. So people make different estimation. I have given you some key number, some key survey. What is more interesting right now is that we are really succeeding in making some very clear and some very precise marketing analysis about the consumer behavior. what people are looking when they think about ecotourism. So we had made some very good study on that, the difference between the people between 20 and 30 years, 30 and 40 years, on different segments of population, the expectation of the seniors, because the seniors are very important for all the seasonality in tourism, because they can travel during other months during the year. So we have all these materials on the segment, on the consumer behavior, and we have some general numbers that we can say that are all the time very positive, and we can see all the time a double-digit increase in green ecotourism. But I'm not going to mention all this number because anyway, at a statistical point of view, we cannot say, okay, it is clear, it is that number, it is that number, because we don't have really a definition about what is ecotourism, what is an ecotourism area. We have different labels, we have different criteria on this issue. So I have taken the example of Disneyland. So it's quite a strange example, maybe, to speak about green tourism, but because it is this consumer behavior approach, in the sense that tourism has the singularity to market several items, the goods, the maps, the service, and all that. And all these items, you can find all of them in a thematic parks. So Disneyland, in fact, they can package you an experience with the hotel, with the restaurant. You are going to use the Disney dollars. And in fact, Disneyland is creating a territory. So you are entering in a different territory. Exactly what I was saying before about the green resort. The green resort in the middle of the desert. It is a different territory. So with different rules, with different expectations, where you are going to learn different things. So this is the idea of the resort. You enter in a closed place, you enter in an empire, And the result all the time is that you're going to spend more days, more money in the park, and you are going to think that you are elsewhere from the outside world. So this is very important to understand as ID for the resort. But you cannot live a full experience if you go out and you go in. If you all the time, it's what we call a cognitive dissonance, in the sense of your experience during all the day. So you have to really close the world. And you can see it also with the casino in Las Vegas. You have all these thematic casino with the tour, like La Tour Eiffel, with the Egyptian pyramids, with all that. And they are creating this world and this closed world. And all that, it is this idea of creating what I was writing, an autarkic territory. And now, in this autarkic, in this closed territory, you're going to live fully and really an experience, a different experience. But you have to stay there. And you have to have the motivation and the good reason to stay there. So this is the idea, what I was saying about an empire in an empire and about the idea of the resort. So all that, it is not only a marketing device meant to create, this is meant to create the optimal condition to sell Mickey Mouse t-shirt, poker chips. It is an answer to a modern demand to escape of the everyday life without wonder or magic, to a modern expectation to find in tourism a way to live a rare enchanting experience. So this is what we are looking with this idea of resort, and this is what we have to develop with the idea of green tourism resort. And all that now you can see it every day. In fact, the Disneyland experience is everywhere. It's the Apple store, it's the Nike store, it's the Louis Vuitton store. You enter in there in the shop, so you have all the design, you have all the way to behave in the shop, and you are living really an experience when you go there. And so the added value of the product, it's also the experience that you have when you purchase the product. So this is also a very important experience that you can translate into tourism. Of course, after you have the services, the franchise like Subway, Starbucks, so you go there from outside. This is also important because we have also this idea of border. When you pass along a McDonald's or Starbucks, you have the smell of the coffee, you have the smell of the hamburger, so you have already the first incentive to make you enter in this empire, in this place, in a different place with different rules, with products, when you will be estimated, when you will get value. Because all the time you have to give value to the people, you have to give them an experience. So customer value become disconnected from the product in itself to be more and more immaterial. So the value of green tourism and marketing are at first sight completely the opposite to this model of overconsumption and communication that build modern cathedrals of waste and bad taste, or disseminate thousands of similar shops in our city selling identical products and at the same time a unique experience. That's all the game. They are the opposite. If green marketing is not greenwashing, but a commitment to elaborate, produce, and promote sustainable goods, services, and experience. So it's always the idea to be green. It's not just to respect some criteria. It's also to give a different experience, and not just a marketing experience to sell something. If we want to be a little bit the purist, and if you want to a little bit to think about all that. So what can be the sustainable experience? So tourism, it can be one of the best ways to take into account the need for experience and sustainability. A sustainable experience can be understood in different but complementary ways. The experience of the tourist in an area which follows the guidelines of sustainability, that's very clear for everybody, and an experience in itself that will be sustainable, that lasts enough to become an embedded experience. So it is, how can I say, a leisure travel that gives you also awareness, knowledge through the discovery of new technology, the practice of new habits of consumption, of living. So can a green resort can give that, or it will be the green tourism district which we are going to speak, which is an area that will give this experience. And do we have to put the tourism in the green tourism district? And that is the real green tourism district? Sorry to put the question like that, but it's not really this concept of green tourism district. It's not so easy in a marketing way. It is very, a very interesting one. So what can be the definition of a green district? So we have seen that the logic of the experience within a resort cannot fully embody our view of the consumer needs to sustainability. The logic of the resource cannot escape the shadow of cognitive dissonance, since it draws a heavy limit. You will go out for the resort and it will be finished. So the consumer will fatally live this contradiction, but we need to find a kind of holistic approach for any strategy for the sustainable development. So in order to explain our vision of the green district, we show the lower discriminating item, which hold in a simple question: do real people actually live there? In the sense, it is a place where people live 3 months by year, and then at the end of seasons they go out and Disneyland is closed and that's finished. It's just open 3 years. Or is it a real area with real people and where inhabitants are sharing with the tourists a real experience, a real sustainable experience? So we choose to study 3 different scales of districts: the state, if we can say it like that, and then we take the Qatar, because it's one of the examples with the 2030 strategy, sustainable strategy. You see all this big stadium who will work with just solar energy, but who has to give a temperature of 20 grads when outside it is 45 degrees. So the Qatar is really the example of the country who has chosen to really invest in this idea of green, of sustainability. The village, the typical idea of seafront eco-village, seafront eco-resort, and the neighborhood, in the sense the real area where people are living and in a real city with real people, if I can say it like that. So you have the state, so you have the Qatar, we can have many images. We have worked on some projects, to say the truth, with the islands in Dubai and with other projects of Marina and other kind of projects. All the time it must be sustainable, because this is very important for the people there. But it must be, of course, interesting at an economical point in the same time and very quickly. So there is also always this big contradiction. And so I mentioned it, the chair of Qatar Green Building Council is also the chairman of the Qatar Tourism Authority. So it's the same person, so that's not an hazard, because it's really linked with the tourism development, which is a basis for this country right now. And so he said that the role of the hotel industry is to lead the country towards sustainability. So really, the tourism industry is the leader towards sustainability, for example, for this country. So our overall tourism development strategy is not only aimed at lowering Qatar's carbon footprints and its energy and water consumption, but also looks at protecting Qatar's natural habitats, its wildlife, and its marine reserves. So all that also with tourism. Tourism in protected area, tourism around the sea, eco-resort, green resort. So there is a very strong link in this vision. So these are some images of the kind of project that you can see appearing a little bit in the middle of nowhere. And we cannot find in this vision a will to provide a sustainable experience like we can imagine it within a green district, but it is more like a state with cities that are a kind of resort. You know, you are a state, and then you are going to make some big resorts, and you came at cities. And all these cities, they have a little bit of a thematic. They are based on some numbers. And when we worked a few years ago for a new city in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, so it was really a city starting from nowhere, we are just making the business plan of the city. So you know exactly when we make a business plan for a resort or for a marina and all that. So how many people, what will be the real estate, when we put that, where we put that, if the people will invest there, how it will be for the state, what will be the imposite. Everything was exactly the same business plan. I don't say that as a critic, I just notify it. It was exactly the same business plan as a resort. As a resort in Tunisia, in Morocco, or in other countries. It was purely simply the business plan of the city. So I'm just going, I am late. 5 minutes? That's okay. So this is another project of the Eurotunnel group. So you know, between England and France. So it is at Sangatte in France, and they are trying to create a kind of eco-village. So the kind of eco-village is already a lot used in the rural community, in the rural community, in the rural areas, and so they are going to make some buildings that will respect low energy house, a lot of standard passive buildings, etc., etc. It will be really an eco-village in France who will respect all the legislation, and in fact, who will respect in advance the future legislation. The fact is that, once again, we have this idea of luxury. You have this golf. The golf is not always sustainable. It's always a question. It can be, but it's quite complicated to say, okay, I have made a green golf. It's a kind of interpretation, but why not? But when you see all these images, some of them here, all the brochure and everything, it was another time like a luxury resort. So you will have the golf, you will have nice flat, you will have very nice apartment and everything, but it's very hard to think that it is not just marketing, that you create a marketing product, which is quite good. It's not a problem at all. But when you see all the presentation and all that, it is really the use of the sustainability for marketing reason and to answer to certain needs that I presented before with the idea of resort, etc., etc. So it is really a product on leisure, and it is designed for the tourists, for the outsider, for the people who will come in this close place from the reality. And then to try to finish, then we have this example. It is the neighborhood, it is Vauban in Freiburg in Germany. And we have this idea of district who was not linked at all with tourism. It started in 1993. Then the construction ended in 2006. All the houses are built at least with improved low energy standard and passive house, plus energy standards, and are inhabited by around 5,000 people. Ecological traffic mobility was implemented, reduced number of private cars to be parked in the periphery. About 40% of the households agreed to live without an odd card, and it cost around 18,000 euro to buy a place in a car park. So this is really a real area in a city when you can really live a green tourism experience in a way. And this is in the urban area. And you have also the Green City Hotel in Vauban. And now it is not very well with this image, but you see that Vauban is really near the Black Forest. So you can go for excursion. You can make a lot of things there. And all this district has to be studied as a part of an environment. And it was really the idea, and with the implication of the people, of the inhabitants, who said, okay, we want to live there, we want to use this kind of houses, we want to make that. And then after, as a tourist, I am interested to go when I want to make some city break or other things in a real green tourism area, to learn in a way, and also to have a really different experience, but I am in the real world. I'm not going to a closed world, which is totally different from the reality. So these are some of the ideas that are linked with this idea of tourism in a green districts. And now you see that in a lot of cities all over Europe, Paris, London, and everything. In Issy-les-Moulineaux, because it's near for me in Paris, you have this big eco-quartier who is eco area who is being built right now, always respecting that. And we can say that in a way, making tourism in this area will be a different experience, if we want to play a little bit with the words, and if we want to see a little bit what can be the difference between the green tourism resort, the green tourism district, as an experience, as a way of living, as a way of learning in a way. And even if tourism a lot of time has a bad reputation when we speak about environment and sustainability. So the promotion of a green district tourism has to aim the tourists and also the inhabitants, keeping in mind that this particular area can be seen as an ecosystem in itself. So you are going to visit this area like a park or like another place. And I think that was a little bit the idea to think or to develop about that. So this is the song. Now I have no more time. Okay, so just I'm going to criticize a little bit myself. So it was just to give this idea of one of the projects we made in Sulina. So Sulina, it's in the Danube Delta. It is really at the end of the Danube Delta where the Black Sea meets the Danube. So you have the place there, and so we have this big area and an old port which is totally abandoned, and we have won a competition to make a kind of eco-research totally sustainable, because we are in a natural protected area, the biggest biosphere reserve in Europe. So we were very strict on all the conditions about what we can do, what we can consume, what can be done there. And you see, you have the Danube on a part, and you have the sea on the other side. And all the idea before all that, excuse me, the slide is still in Romanian, it was really to make this first ecotourism station on the Black Sea, totally new, totally using renewable energy, consuming the products that will be produced inside of it. In sense, the fish, the vegetables, the meat, everything was produced inside of it. All the activity were autonomous. It was like a resort, autarkic. It was closed, but in the same time, as you see on the left is the city. We try to create the relation with the city, and we try to become a prolongation of the city. In sense, not closing ourselves, not being an empire in an empire. It's just we're coming with a new experience. We will offer a new experience because we have to raise awareness. We have to provide some new experiences to the people. That's what they look for. But we want to be integrated in the city. We want to be a part of it. We don't want to be a different experience than the city in itself. So we have to come with people who will live there, really. We say we live in this resort, in this ecotourism resort, if I can say it like that. So this is theoretical, because we have to say the truth. This was the proposition. We will see if it can be applied with the EU fundings, with other questions. We don't know. Is it just a half situation? In sense, we try to find a middle solution, and because we think we cannot do that or we cannot do that. But it's really this kind of idea which is behind the idea of green tourism district, green tourism resort, which kind of policy to make.